break is hard. Give me a minute ago.
Hello, hello, everybody can hear me? About 4 minutes after 1. Raise your hand if you can hear me okay. My mic coming through clear. Sounds good. All right, good. Let's see here. Missed you guys. Just being able to talk with you guys to see what's going on. I had to take a little time with the family out to Colombia, take some time away from the work, and it was much needed. Now we're back to get things going. I'd like to hear what's going on with you guys, where you are in the process, things of that nature, if I can help you out along the way. I think we have some new members here, some new faces, so forgive me, but as far as veterans, if I do have to go over the same information that you previously heard before, which is fine. It's a refresher for everybody. So what I wanted to do today quickly is to answer a couple of questions. We got until about 1:45. But before that, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Constitution. I'm going to randomly pick a Constitution. I've selected the 1868 North Carolina Constitution. And I wanted to go over a few points from there because I think it's very important that all of us begin to start studying our very own Constitution. When you're putting together these trust packets, that's all fine and great. But if you don't know how to exercise it with coupled by your Constitution, then it does you no good. It does you no good. Some of us are currently in court, and you're either a plaintiff or you're a defendant. Either way, you have to be able to understand your Constitution and enforce it. Okay? I don't care if that's you're trying to discharge something. I don't care if you are trying to battle a ticket. You're going to see that, most of our students here who've learned this information, they've gotten remedy. And to back it all up, even though they have some aspects of the documents done and some are not complete, one thing's for sure that we absolutely had to do is to put the Constitution into the case, right? So as people continuously come in, got about 19 participants right now, I'm going to go ahead, share my screen. We're going to look at the North Carolina Constitution, go over a few points, and from there, we'll start taking questions. Now, I did send out a memo before I sent out the Zoom link today. There are those that have previous consultations with me. I will be getting to you within the next 2 weeks, not starting 2 weeks, within the next 2 weeks. So beginning Monday, I'll be fulfilling those consultations. Right now, I'm still catching up with a lot of other work and other family matters. So Isaiah is taking consultations for me. Please take advantage of that. He is my go-to for that whenever I can't do it. So if there's any questions that you have with him during his consultation that he can't answer, he will bring that question to me, and I will give the answer to him, and he'll give it back to you as soon as possible. Okay, he's been great to me, really good with helping me on the side with all that stuff, including my assistant Nancy. She's here on the call as well. If you can put I believe all of you guys already have her contact information. Plus, she sees it inside of the Telegram as well. So thank you both for helping me when I'm away from the office. New number 352-600-4611. Previous number that begins with 689 is no longer in operation. So please use my new office cellular 352-600-4611. I will put that in the chat throughout the day today. So let me share my screen. We're going to go over Constitution. That clip we saw was from the movie The Big Short. Came out, I believe, I don't know when it came out, but they're talking about the mortgage crash that happened in 2008. And we're about to endure another one, believe it or not. What do you think is supposed to happen when that $2 trillion stimulus packet came out with supporting everybody who couldn't sustain themselves, who have lost their jobs due to the ramifications of COVID. All that money is circulated out into the economy. Guess what happens? All of your everyday goods and sales must go up to absorb and circulate all of that cash. And therefore, I mean, the price of a car, an average car today, a sedan, I'm talking the Toyota Corolla is like $48,000. We're going on an average of $46,000 to $50,000 to buy a car. It's ridiculous. All because of this excess pump of cash and credit that we're all utilizing. And the people just accepted it. They just took it. They didn't raise any questions. They didn't challenge. They didn't sue the officers. They just accepted it. So who are we to blame? Is it the government? All they did was provide an offer that will give them a benefit. And we didn't think about the benefit long term. So now the people are going to be suffering for that, unfortunately. The best advice I can give when it comes to protecting your monies in the bank is to take out as much as you can, leave what you can in there for just bills. Any savings, you can keep it at home, but I would recommend to go ahead and put that inside of a whole life insurance policy. Whole life insurance policy, otherwise known as BOLI, bank-owned insurance. That's what the banks are going to do. So you might as well do what they're about to do. Who knows when it's about to happen? There's talks of devaluation and all of that, where everybody's going to be on one playing field with the dollar, with other currencies in other countries. It has to happen. It just has to happen for what they're trying to do. So let's get ready for it. You don't necessarily need your trust to be complete in order to do that. You can start your life insurance policy now and fund it. When you talk with your agent, be sure to mention to them that you do not want a MEC, a modified endowment contract. You don't want a MEC limit. You want to be able to fund this policy as much as you want. Who knows, you might win the lottery and you want to dump some of that money in there to protect it from the banks and what they're about to do. So with that being said, we'll get into that stuff later, but let's go over the Constitution here. North Carolina, 1868. Just a few points. We'll talk about it, and then we'll get to questions. Let's go down to Article 1, Declaration of Rights. Some states call this the Bill of Rights, right? Remember, I've said this in the past. I gave you guys a document called the Bill of Complaint. We're talking about doing lawsuits in equity. That's why it's called Bill of Rights, because the Bill of Rights supports rules and regulations in fairness for express trust. And you're going to see inside of this Constitution where they talk about expressed and implied. Keep in mind, the Constitution is always talking directly to three individuals. You're either going to be the people, the subjects, or the citizens. You want to be a part of the people. The people is what comes together and forms a what? A trust. So whenever you see the word people, there's trust. And people are comprised of men and women, not humans. They're actually going to show you the difference in that in this Constitution as well. So let's go down to section 2. Now, all constitutions are practically similar in wording, depends on the year. I prefer you go 1933 and back. This is 1868. Section 2 says that all political power is vested in and derived from the people. Trust. All government of right originates from the people, is founded upon their will only, and is instituted solely for the good of the whole, right? A trust requires 2 or more people. Section 3, that the people of the state have the inherent, sole, and exclusive right of regulating the internal government and police thereof, and of altering and abolishing their constitution and form of government whenever it may be necessary to their safety and happiness, but every such right should be exercised in pursuance of law. and consistently with the Constitution of the United States. Let's go down to section 6. This is a good one. If you recall, it's going to sound very familiar to the 14th Amendment, section 4 of the 14th Amendment. To maintain the honor and have good faith of the state untarnished, right? That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to maintain honor and good faith of this state. How are they going to do it? And what are they talking about? They're talking about the public debt. Okay. Regularly contracted before and since the rebellion shall be regarded as inviolable and never be questioned. So the public debt shall never be questioned under what conditions? But the state shall never assume or pay or authorize the collection of any debt or obligation, express or implied, incurred in what? Aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States or any claim for the loss of emancipation of any slave. This last sentence here is telling you they are not going to pay the public debt if you are associated with insurrection or rebellion against the United States. Now, what does that look like? Terrorist, sovereign citizens, secured party creditor. All of that is considered insurrection or rebellion. Now, rebellion did take place during the time of the Civil War, right? The Indians coming from the Dutch East India Trading Company coming here and wreaking all kind of havoc, including those from the land of Albion, formerly known, but is now known as England. Those people came here from over there, over to the eastern side of the United States to begin the Department of Agriculture. But what were they doing? Causing insurrection and rebellion against King George. So they sought shelter with some of the Moors here in the inland parts of the United States of America. So do not classify yourself as a terrorist, as a sovereign citizen, or a secure party creditor. None of that stuff. You will be deemed a person who is responsible for paying the public debt and taxes. So stay away from it. Let's go down to section 13. No person shall be convicted of any crime, but by unanimous verdict of a jury of good and lawful men in open court. The legislature may, however, provide other means of trial for petty misdemeanors with the right of appeal. So you have the right of a jury. In any case, I don't care if it's a $200 ticket that you decide to fight and not pay. If you go in, you need to ask for a jury. I'm going to go down and show you where it says what type of jury. Let me see. Let's go down to, I forget the section, but it talks about you get to choose. You get to have a jury of your peers. That means someone that is familiar with you and not going to be partial or anything like that, but you get to choose of your peers. That means whoever is the pool of selection, you get to select those that are within your age. That's usually how a habeas corpus is supposed to work. And all of these things that I mentioned, you're supposed to bring it out to the court and to the judge and let them know. You may know how to do procedures, but you don't actually know the law. So you have to tell them the law. Section 15, general warrants, whereby any officer or messenger may be commanded to search suspected places without evidence of the act committed, or to seize any person or persons not named whose offense is not particularly described and supported by evidence, are dangerous to liberty and what? Ought not to be granted. This is how Morgan, one of our own, got her traffic ticket dismissed, because she asked the court, where is the supported evidence that's supposed to be attached to the warrant or the summons when the officer pulled her over. He didn't have it, nor could the court back up that officer because it was supposed to be the court to approve that supported evidence, such as an affidavit of complaint, to be attached to the warrant or summons. So when they say warrant of arrest or summons for your arrest, the officer did a summons to appear to court. It's the same thing. And he has nothing to back it up. So the Constitution says that that is dangerous to do without having those requirements. Let's go down to section 21. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended. Habeas corpus is very, very important. What is that? An habeas corpus, it's a Latin word, says for that you have the body. And it originated back in 1215. Now, I told you guys before, anything before the 1500s is made up history. The dates are not what they are. This is an I, that's not a one. I-215, and they're talking about this habeas corpus originating back during the time of the Magna Carta, which was, I believe, the same time, 1215 or 1212. Coming from that Treaty of Marrakesh, I-202. But a habeas corpus is basically a petition. It proceeds as a civil action against the state agent, usually a warden. Also, the Attorney General. He's the guy that approves the state's codes. And so you're basically trying to do a procedure where it's a writ, habeas corpus, to determine if a state's detention of a prisoner is valid. Even if they detain you wrongfully, you can file what's called a writ of habeas corpus or a bill of habeas corpus. The warden will pull you out immediately, right in front of the court, and you can state what you need to state. So that's very important that you know you have that inside of your Constitution. It protects that right. Now, know this, whatever any legislative member, any violation that they do against the Constitution gives you the right to do what's called an equity suit. It's called a 241, 242 lawsuit. And you're going to do it not against the state, but you're going to do it directly against that officer who went against you. Let's go down to section 23. The people of this state ought not to be taxed. Did it say the subjects? Did it say the citizens? Or did it say the people? The people. And who are the people? The trust. Ought not to be taxed or made subject to the payment of any impost or duty. We've looked up these definitions before. Without the consent of themselves. So when did the IRS get consent from you that you wanted to be taxed, that the trust wanted to be taxed? And the trust is comprised of two or more persons, settlers, trust protectors, trustees, and beneficiaries. And who's the beneficiary? The trust. So if you are from North Carolina, you have section 23 to quote directly to the state or the federal government and say, no, give me something that trumps section 23 and then we'll talk. There is nothing that will trump this. Section 25, the people have a right to assemble together to consult for their common good, to instruct their representatives and to apply to the legislature for redress of grievances, right? This is where the trust can come together as a micro republic. So your counties are considered micro republics, and then everything above them are called macro democratics, right? You have the micro republic, and you can be a part of that too as a plebiscite. That is where you can do what's called redresses of grievances, where you can dismantle certain programs, child support programs, other different agencies that are part of the executive branch of the government, or even dismantle DMV and all of their policies. That's how powerful the people can be if they assemble and challenge the legislature. I'm going to show you how we can do that. That's the whole point of this whole thing that we've been doing for the last year and bringing this information to the people to decide to do it. It's so that you can do what? Do what 25 says. For the trust to have a right to assemble. For what? Redress of grievances. There's a lot of things that we disagree with on what they're doing. And so you have to become what they're doing, become what they've become. They've become a trust and they've put together all these things under Rule 144A. Now we have to do the same thing and combat them. But we are the majority. So that's why we will win. Right? Let's go down to 26. This is a religious section. I like this section. All men have a natural and unalienable right to worship the Almighty God according to the dictates of their own conscience. And no human authority should, in any case, whatever, control or interfere with the rights of conscience. Why did they start off saying that all men, and then down here, no human? Why can't they just say no man? All men, no human. Let's look further into that because that is really, really something. If you look up the word human in Ballantyne's 1930 dictionary, this is what you get. And by the way, if you find this dictionary, snatch it up right away. They're going fast. Human being, it's from the Latin humanus. It's a lesser and inferior man or woman. Oh, that's why they didn't say all men. It's defined legally as an animal or monster, as distinct from the ancient pre-Vatican Roman term homo, which equals man. A key rule of law from the 14th century describing a fundamental legal fiction. Isn't that what we're trying to get away from? Legal fiction, the straw man, the ens legis. Well, the word human is connected to legal fiction as well. That is the notion of an inferior man or woman as an animal, as defined by the papal decree. This is the Pope. So when they talk about the word human, they're putting you under religious restraints. You don't want to be under religious restraints at all. Constitutional is where you want to be. So an animal, and therefore not subject to the laws of free men. Look at the distinction. Now we talk about free men. So it makes much more sense. You cannot understand what the Constitution is saying without actually going back to the dictionaries that were published during that time. If this Constitution is 1868, then I need a dictionary in the 1800s, slightly above in the 1900s. But I wouldn't use a 2022 dictionary to define the words that they were using in 1868. It doesn't make sense. So I resent anyone calling me a human. This is not a biblical word. There's only men, women, son, daughter, king, and Lord, and that's it. Don't use it. Let's go down to the last one, section 32. 32. You heard this one before. This is a part of all of your guys' injunctions. Retrospective laws, punishing acts committed before the existence of such laws, and by them only declared criminal, are oppressive, unjust, and incompatible with liberty. Wherefore, no ex post facto law ought to be made. No law taxing retrospectively sales, purchases, or other acts previously done ought to be passed. The Constitution of the United States does not give them the right to do federal taxes, but they're getting away with it from the 14th Amendment, right? Right. However, a fair tax is a direct tax. 8 cents on liquor, 8 cents on tobacco. No matter how much you make, everybody pays the fair direct tax. That's the only one that's lawful. Everything else, as far as you being an employee of some employer, you're not being taxed the same as the next employee who works next to you. Unconstitutional, right? So, one more, number 35. 35. All courts shall be open. All courts shall be open, no matter what. And every person for an injury done him in his lands, goods, person, or reputation shall have remedy by due course of law, and right and justice administered without the sale, denial, or delay. Now, when COVID happened, what happened to the courts? You tried to go down there, make a recording of your trust or whatever, and they said, no, you can't come in, we're closed for COVID. Put your stuff in the mail. That's an unconstitutional statement for them to make. However, people were still buying houses and the courts were closing escrow during the times of COVID. Discrimination. How many people sued the courts or the county courthouses because they didn't let you go in and file a document because of COVID? And yet they were still in operation doing other things. This is what I'm talking about. Knowing your constitution and suing. Sue for everything that you can get your hands on. If you want to know how to fund the trust, sue. Perfect example. We got someone who's doing the lawsuit for the accord and satisfaction. The fee to file his bill of complaint was anywhere around $200, right? Anywhere around $200, and we're talking at least the value of the note of the house for a lawsuit, plus all the money that he's paid when it comes to all of the accord and satisfaction mortgage payments. They made him an offer. It was a ridiculous offer, but they made him an offer which was much more than the filing fee, just to say not to go to court. We don't want to go to court. Let's just pay you this much, and you sign this document that says we're good to go. You're never going to sue us again for this matter. Do you accept? Of course we don't accept. But what I'm trying to say is when you sue and you have an absolute point, they're terrified of putting that on the record. And they would rather pay you to be quiet and make you or get you to sign documentation and say, here, take this money and don't ever put this out into the public again. This case will become a mute and no one will ever be able to find this case number. But guess what happens? You got the money. So know your constitution in and out. It is so important. This is actually the very first thing that you should be teaching your children. They need to know how to conduct themselves, especially in public schools, colleges. They're just now getting their driver's license to start driving. They need to know how to conduct themselves in the car, out of the car, lawfully and whatnot. So I'm going to stop there. Let's take some questions. First, any questions on the Constitution? Let's stay on subject for a second. Any questions on the Constitution? Let me remove hands. Start fresh. Any questions on your Constitution? All right. As I unmute you, well, as I call on you, unmute your mic. Let me know which tier you are in and your question for the Constitution.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
You
Did I go out of turn?
You got to raise your hand. I'm going to go with Jonathan Todd. Jonathan Todd, just go ahead and unmute your mic. You're good to go. Jonathan Todd Bigelow. You are unmuted. Mute your mic and you're good to go. Well, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and press the mute back on you. And when you figure it out, go ahead and come back in and raise your hand again when you're ready. Go ahead, Cara.
The question I had regarding the Constitution, I was actually reading, I'm in the Texas territory now. I was reading their Constitution from, I think it was 1830 something to 1870 something. And most constitutions obviously have the same thing, like you said earlier. But I've been confused for a while about the Indian not taxed and those from African blood.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could comprehend how terms like Black, Negro, are all copywritten terms that take us out of law, out of our rights.
Right.
But what about African descent? Like, what does that mean if you're of African descent, that you're not a part of this and can't vote and things of that nature?
Well, that's another trick that they do. South America, North America, Central America is ancient Egypt, which means they are ancient Africa as well. So you have the northern parts of Africa and you have the southern parts of Africa. We call it North and South America. So when someone says I'm African, of course, they're referring to the African continent that we know of today, but it was originally here, promised land here. So you don't have to call yourself that if you don't want to. It's a former term. Just go with the word Aboriginal.
Well, I consider myself a Moor, and I have for the last 4 or 5 years now, and I understand or comprehend that this land is ancient Africa. But I guess what I'm trying to comprehend is, there's a lot of misinformation. So from some people's perspective, Moors are not a part of this government, whether it's the corporate United States or the de jure United States of America, because we're here on the land and they were given permission to be here to do commerce. So we have nothing to do with them in any regard, even as it relates to being a state national, because we have nothing to do with the United States of America at all. Then there's other people who have the other perspective that we are state nationals because we're born in a certain territory. So when I read these constitutions and it says that, if you're not of African descent, you have nothing to do with this, then that seems to me, in my mind, at least the way I'm comprehending it, to lean more to the point of view that we have nothing to do with this government at all, even the de jure United States of America.
Mm-hmm. The part in the Constitution that you're reading from, it's coming from the 1866 Civil Rights Act. There's one in 1976, and there's one, 1966, but there's one 1866. And
I'm sorry, go ahead. I thought you were asking me which Constitution it was.
No, I know you're looking at the Texas, but the wording in that Texas part is coming from the 1866 Constitution. And from there, that's section 1. And from there, that's what fuels the 14th Amendment and the 13th Amendment, right? So when you look at these terms, it says African descent and all of that, it's going to come down to your own spiritual preference I guess it really comes down to all of the wealth information that you've researched. You can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself, but if there isn't a grand people to accept it, we wouldn't really argue it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I like the term that you're going with, more Aboriginal. You identify with that. That's a correct term. All of these documents are written by them in the first place. And that's usually the term that most officials in court accepts.
Okay.
In my experience, that's what I've seen. They accept that. As
So
long as you're not considering yourself to be a former Moore.
no, or a free more. Is that correct?
Correct. Free Moore under the Sundry Act. You don't want that at all either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Jonathan, you were able to figure that out? You are unmuted.
Can you hear me?
There you go. I hear you.
Hey, sorry about that. It's my first Zoom since I got this computer refurbished.
No problem.
Okay,
Welcome.
thank you, thank you. I just got signed up. I did the 199, so I wouldn't have to pick and choose.
Okay.
And my question is, born in Ohio, and can we use any year constitution we choose?
Pick something that is before 1933, before the bankruptcy of the United States. I believe in Ohio, you guys have 1812, but I could be mistaken, but it's somewhere in the 1800s. I prefer you use that one.
Okay, yeah, the first one was 1803, and I think the next one was before 1850, and then there was a 1950 one also. But there was some controversy about, I guess Ohio wasn't technically classified as a state until 1950s because of some legal something that didn't get done correctly.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with the when it comes to the issues of marriage and what the wife will get when there's a divorce, and that's what determined the whole Ohio becoming an actual state. But it has nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with us.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Let's go to Seti. How you doing, sir? Seti, you are unmuted. If you have a question. Go ahead.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir. How you doing, I have a passport. I want to correct my my passport. If I correct my passport, do I have to wait? First of all, I have two questions. Do I have to wait for the authentication process to complete?
No, you don't. With the passport process, you're just going to use a standard birth certificate to send in as your proof of where you were born and as proof of your nationality. So no, you don't have to give it the authenticated birth certificate. I didn't do that for mine. I wouldn't recommend it because some people have done it and they did not get it back. For whatever reasons, the Department of State decided that they needed to keep it. And I think because of what's happening now, as far as creditorship, they're trying to hold on to that. So please, you guys, do not give the authenticated birth certificate to the Department of State. Just give a regular birth certificate. The only time I use my ABC is when I fly domestically as a form of ID, or yeah, that's usually the only time that I use it. So
Okay. All right. Good. That's good to know. And my last question is, once you correct your passport, can you still use your social security number for whatever? Can you just continue with life using your social security number?
you definitely can. Just know that there's a process that you guys have a choice of doing at the end of all of this, such as suing the counties where you were born, if you want to collapse that social security trust. And in order to do that, they're going to definitely check the records to see if you were actually truthful and not using that number for X amount of years. So that's up to you. But if you have to use it, yes, you can use it. You know, your trust controls it. Think of it as the trust controlling another lesser form of an LLC. That's what the SSN is. You can control it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Great question. Reggie Bay, you are unmuted.
Hey Avery, how you doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Awesome. Oh, I'm doing well. I had a question about putting the Constitution into like a case. Should the Constitution be like notarized, or should it just be like a regular copy?
Great question. If you can contact your state archive department, you can order a certified copy of the Constitution. And all you do is draw up an affidavit. You're going to sign that affidavit in front of a notary saying that you accept all of the terms that all the officers have promised to keep in their oath. And you will attach that to the Constitution. Then take the Constitution and your attached affidavit and you put it into the case as a judicial notice.
Okay. And I did have one more question. So when it comes to the habeas corpus, how do you get the court and the state's attorney to see it like not just as a civil matter, but it would interject itself into a criminal matter as well?
Mhm. Just by what we just talked about with putting that Constitution in there, judicial notices is what invokes that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
Yeah, you can put that in there, and also when you file the habeas corpus with the proper personnel, such as the attorney general, the clerk of court, the current judge that's on the case, that will trigger a hearing. Okay, and a lot of times the attorney general won't show up, or he won't even send in his own deputy, which will put him at fault. And so that'll go in your favor too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Going to go to Miss MM. You are unmuted.
Hey, Avery, it's Makisha. I forget to change my name. I
Okay, thank you.
possibly coming into a large sum of funding from a private source, and potentially I'll be submitting for federal funding as well. But I haven't gotten all my stuff down packed, so I wanted to know. I know you have private clients. Do you have availability to speed my process up for me? Because I'm lacking on the execution, and I don't want to get this money and have a lot to pay on it.
We do. You have to contact my assistant Nancy or Isaiah, and they
Okay.
can get that started with that. The time frame of delivery is about 90 days to complete your packet as of right now. As of right now.
Well, I have some of that already done. Like I have my 9-8 number. I have my trustee. The only things I haven't done was my filings, my UCC filing and the injunction.
Okay.
1 second.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, that's fine. And that'll help with determining cost a little bit too, because you have some things done. So reach out to my assistant Nancy. I believe she put her information in the chat. So you two can converse about that.
okay. All right. Thanks, Avery.
Okay, you're welcome. That's good to hear. Someone's coming into some money. Good thing. I want all of us to come into money. Everybody's gonna come into it. I feel it. Gonna go to Flex. You are unmuted.
Hello,
Loud and clear. I hear you.
what's going on, man? I had an IRS question. So I had for my enterprise, I had filed for my EIN and used a friend's information or whatever. But I had used somebody, I couldn't get in touch with him or whatever, so I ended up, using somebody else's information. The IRS said I need to call in. My question is, do I need to have the person's information that I use to call in and I guess verify or let them know everything? Can I do it, or just trying to see what should I say to kind of get the process rolling, because I need to get this account open.
Just to confirm, you're doing you're trying to obtain an EIN number as a third party for somebody else, right?
No, I'm getting it for myself for my enterprise for the trust. I already have it. I already have an EIN number, but I got it. I use a friend of mine's information. He doesn't have his identity stuff together, So he's been slowing me up on actually getting the account open. So, you told me it was cool to go ahead and file again for another EIN with somebody else's information. But then the IRS said that, I need to call in or something of that nature because of the information I submitted. So my question was, do I need to have the
Right.
person information that I submitted to call in and I guess talk with them? Can I do it? I'm just trying to figure out.
Start
What
over.
did you say?
Start over.
Start over how? Do I have to start like with a whole nother name? Or?
No, just start over with the same enterprise name, getting a different EIN number, and use a representative who has valid ID to go along with their social. So that way you can have them go and open up a bank account for you too.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what I did. I used somebody else's information after the initial person, and then that's when I got that notification from the IRS asked me to call in.
Right, because they're asking you to call in because of the information that's already on file for the existing EIN.
Okay.
So you're telling me that the initial person has issues with their ID, start over. Just start fresh.
Okay.
Start fresh with the person that don't have issues.
Gotcha. I guess what I'm trying to explain is I did with a new person. I started fresh with a very new person. I did another application, same name, same trust name and everything. Just a different person's information as far as for the social and everything.
Okay. Well, here's what you can do then. You can just facilitate the call and see what they ask of you. If it's just a headache, then to completely start clean all the way.
Okay.
Yeah. Who knows? It might be a small little thing that they need clarified over the phone. And if that's the case, then you're good. But if not, I would start fresh and give them fresh information with that personal responsible person.
Okay.
Representative, basically.
Gotcha. All right, I'll do that. Appreciate it.
All right, cool. All right. Going to Garth. How you doing, sir? Garth, you are unmuted. If you're there, just unmute your mic.
Hello.
There we
Hello.
go. All right.
Hey, how you doing, Avery? How's everyone doing today? Avery, I'm in the process. I've gotten my 9-8 number, and I'm kind of confused. I'm still stuck in the freshman class because I'm not sure of what I need to do in the order that I need to do it in. Like I have my 9-8 number. I don't know if to do the company and the DBA because I have to put all of that in my declaration of trust. So I don't know if to do the injunction. Like, where do I start? Because I have an existing company, LLC rather, but I guess this is a two-part question. How do I take that company and use it as the fiduciary? I looked at your examples, but it's kind of like the example is an express trust that you use, like the first DBA is an express trust, doing business as your first, middle, last. But if your company or your LLC is a different name from the trust that you want to use as that fiduciary to kind of open up the bank account, do you just scratch the LLC that you have and just say whatever the name of my trust is and make that like, I'm kind of confused on I guess the order and how to do things, especially when it comes down to just.
I got you.
Yeah.
See, I can give you guys a general explanation as to how to start, or I can listen to everybody's going to have a different requirement as to how they need to go about doing these things because everybody's situation is different. So
Right.
based on what you said, and everybody's in the same, everybody's been there. So what I will suggest, I always want people to protect themselves. And this is what my mentors have told me. Do your injunction first. And we went over the Constitution today. So you're going to get better familiar with your Constitution. Do your injunction first. Get that done.
Okay.
That allows you to get the trust established in your county, or at least 1 or 2 counties. It allows for you to get better familiar with understanding title of nobility. You select the title of nobility name, and you get your driver's license name on the record with the sheriff's department so that you're protected. Let's say you get into a case for whatever reason with your business, or just get pulled over. At least the injunction is there to start protecting you. You start understanding how to perfect and move forward in trust. Now we're getting into, okay, let's exercise and put this trust together. Now, to answer your question about the LLC thing, what you're supposed to do is, when it comes to LLCs, you have members and managers, right? That you've listed inside of the articles of organization.
Yes.
I'm assuming that you are listed as a member, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So what you want to do is remove yourself as a member, and you're going to become a manager. Or you can put someone else in that position that you trust to do like a job for you, like an employee.
Right.
Take
Okay.
your name off of it and put the trust as the sole member who has 100% beneficial ownership. That's going to take care of the state taxes.
Okay.
Okay. On the federal level, you already know that same process is done by Form 8832. Well, you probably haven't got to that point yet because you're still in the freshman class, but you will be eventually doing that once you get to sophomore and junior.
Okay.
Okay. So you got your trust name established, you got your 98 number. Now I want you to go update your articles of organization with the Secretary of State. They may call that an amendment form or whatever they may call it. But get that form, take yourself off as a member, put your trust as the member, and put yourself down as the manager, or put somebody else down as the manager.
So put the trust as the member, put me as a member. I'm sorry.
Put
Me
you as a manager,
a manager. I'm
but the
sorry.
trust as the member. The members is the owners.
As the members. Okay.
You do not want to own anything. You want to control it.
Okay. 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 I
Right?
got you. All right. So, all right. So then what I'm gonna do, I'll just do a whole new LLC all over, just start fresh and do it the way from the beginning. So I don't have to do another articles and that, because I was looking at it and I was like, oh man, how do I get the express truck in the name? How do I get it in that order? Like and so I guess this will make it so, because the trust will be the member and I'll be the manager, and that way I can be able to do
You
the
can
DD.
keep it.
Okay.
If your LLC is making money, why would you make another one?
Well, it's not. I just did this LLC earlier on this year, and I haven't made any money on it. But, well, I'm sorry, early on last year, and I haven't made any money on it. And I actually owe something on it because I didn't file anything. So I don't even know how I can keep going with that LLC. I might just have to start with a new one, and then maybe go back after. Yeah.
If
I
the
don't know how.
filing fees are too high, then that might be a good play. But if it's still within reach and you want to keep the name, you can save it.
Okay, that sounds great. One last question. That injunction that you were talking about right before, I'm definitely going to work on that because I have a court case coming up. What does that do for like any court cases or the that you may have coming up? It's in a district court. And I don't care if anybody knows my business, but I just recently bought a house, and when I left the old house, there was a lot of issues, but there was some unpaid rent, and of course, I got a summons to come to court in November for, I guess the remainder of the rent and some other bogus things. How do I combat that? Does the injunction, how do I guess, is that going to affect what I'm trying to do? Is it going to delay it because I have to go to the court in November? I was supposed to respond back to them within the next week. I have to send you. So
What
I
state
don't
are
know.
you in? What state are you in?
Maryland.
Maryland. And you are a tenant in this place, right?
Yes, I was.
So the main complaint here is that the place wasn't in livable conditions.
Yes, when we dealt with it, they were supposed to fix it. They never fixed it and had water coming into the basement for 3 years that we were there. And
Okay.
finally, like, we left because it still had water coming in. My basement was a mess. So we just, I actually ended up buying a house. I was going to buy that house, but actually ended up buying a house and I left. So
Gotcha.
since then, they've remodeled the whole house and they've said, oh, well, we had to put all this trash and we had to do that. The little fees that they had, the water bill was this much and so on and so
You're
forth.
just gonna have to find in Maryland's eviction section, look in their code section, because I'm sure your lease agreement is 100% backed or governed by Maryland's legal and code statute section that you signed. So you're gonna have to find in the eviction section where you have the right to leave or even get back rents, or don't even have to pay rent until the landlord fulfills the obligation of fixing the place. And since he didn't do it, you vacate it, therefore you shouldn't have to be responsible for liabilities. So I would suggest putting in an injunction inside of your case. You're gonna have to put a unique and a uniquely formulated injunction for this case. It's kind of like what you've seen in here on Patreon, but it's more so geared for going after the landlord because he violated X, Y, and Z. And so the injunction is supposed to do what's called irreparable injury. You do not want to have, you don't want to be put in a situation where the judge is trying to put onto you irreparable injury. So the injunction prevents that. Yes, you will involve the Attorney General from Maryland, and he's going to support you. And you're going to say, the Constitution says this. How are you going to allow this specific code or statute to go against the Constitution? That will be irreparable injury. So you're going to have to do some research in the eviction section of your state.
Okay. Man.
Don't go outside of that. I've done it before. I'm doing it now. And we got it done. We won on that. But they didn't want to go to court because of this. So stick to the eviction section.
The eviction section. Okay. And is that something that you would have time to do, or is it too short of a time if I wanted to hire your services to kind of help me out with this? I don't know how that looks or how that. I know you're a very busy man.
I know it's a lot that we're juggling, a busy shift over here, but you can send me the case number and any documentation that you already have on file, and I can briefly look at it and tell you, oh, this doesn't really require my hiring. You got this.
Okay.
Just a simple consultation and you can take it from there. I always like to do that.
All right. That's good. So I just try to set up a consultation with you. And I know you're like back 2 weeks out. So if I make that consultation with you and maybe let's just say you don't get to me until 2 weeks from now, because will we still have time to do things as far as, because I know they asked me to respond back to them. I think it's like 8th or something like that. Or, if
it depends on what the case is right now.
Okay.
So if you want to, you can set something up with Isaiah, and I'm like, the birdie in his ear when he's doing consultations. So I'm there, but I'm not there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Sounds good. I appreciate all your time and just answering my questions and the things that you do for us. We really do, Isaiah and everybody else and everyone in the background that maybe doesn't get the praise that they should, because I know they're your arm, your legs, and everything else, Avery. So thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Guard. Thank you. All right. Let's go to, we're going to take 2 more. Let's see. I'm going to just say VK because I cannot pronounce the name. Last name Kuso.
Hello, greetings everyone. My name is Voyages, like you take a voyage trip somewhere.
Voyages.
Yes.
Like it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Avery, for taking your time today to be able to answer our questions. I am a newbie. I'm actually just getting late to the Zoom call as well, but I'm so glad that you're able to take my questions, and I'm sorry to have you to repeat yourself if you've already went over it. So I do have a few, and I won't be too long. First question is, how do I get access to the Telegram chat?
Telegram, simply provide your number to executive assistant. She's a part of this Zoom here. So do a direct message to her. She'll provide the number, or you'll provide the number to her, and we will add you inside of Telegram.
Okay. Is that Miss? Oh, I see her. Okay. And I was listening to one of your videos, and when it comes down to doing a business address, did you recommend using iPostal for that, or I know you said something about not using a PO box, and I don't remember what your point was with that and why.
Okay. Well, there's different addresses we can use for different things. So what would be your main concern with the address? What would you like to do with it? Is it something that you would like to visit and pick up mail there, or do you just want to use it for a DBA, for a business address? Will you use this address? What do you think?
More so for, I guess, my DBA and to be able to pick up mail, if possible, because as I'm looking at say for instance, the Declaration of Express Trust, because I am in the freshman class, I noticed as I'm going through the document that you prepared that that is something that we do need to insert, and I wasn't sure which way I should go about doing it, if I should get an iPostal address or should I get a different one. But then you said I shouldn't use a PO box, so.
Yeah, let's not use a PO box. Let's leave that as a last resort if that's what you have to use. But use iPostal. There's other companies out there that you can use that's like them, very similar. Just pick an address that's within the county, the same county that you are going to do the business in with the DBA. And pick something that's close and convenient for you that you can get to. iPostal is pretty good because they'll send you pictures of mails that comes in, so you can see if it's even worth you taking the trip down to the mailbox to pick it up. I use them. I have a couple of those boxes around the US, so iPostal is good. I like them.
Okay, got you. And then my last question. So just want to make sure, because I'm going through the same thing. I'm going through a similar process with the young man, but not so much in registering my LLC. It's more so of just wanting to have the right order and getting things together. And I am following the checklist that you do have in the Patreon for us. But I noticed that you said start with an injunction first while we're working on getting the trust set up, and that is mainly for protecting ourselves so that we don't get escorted in the court. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. All right. That was all that I had.
That's my suggestion to get that done. You don't have to. You really don't have to. I mean, if you're someone that stays outside, is not as, getting called in for getting pulled over all the time, then do it last. But yeah, my suggestion is just to get it out the way, get that done. It really does help you to understand your Constitution anyway. It's really unavoidable. When you do the injunction, you're absolutely going to know how your Constitution works, what you can do, what they can't do, and what they should be doing. And that's really important to know.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Very, very welcome. And welcome. I hope to see you in the next couple of weeks. Let's see here. All right. Going to Joe. Joe, you are muted. Just unmute your mic. You should be clear. Joe Gwynn.
Hey, Avery, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Hello, everybody. I am actually a newbie myself and currently in the freshman data process right now. It's a lot of information. and learning all this stuff is mind-boggling, if you will. But my question, Avery, is do you guys have a service where you guys would assist, not assist, but actually would do all the paperwork for a guy like myself, if need be?
We do,
All
but
the while,
I'm just giving you guys a heads up. It is time consuming. There's a lot of people ahead, and so it takes a while for us to get it all done. Mainly because nowadays counties are rejecting our paperwork, and this has been a tried thing where I've done it in the past and was able to do it without, let's say, real estate attached to our paperwork, because that's what the law says that I can do. And now they're coming and saying, no, well, now you got to have real estate. So, okay, we give them real estate, and then they record it. Now, even with the real estate, they're saying, no, we're not going to do it because we know what kind of freedom this is going to give you guys. Now, there is another workaround that I'm doing, and that's been working as well. So what I'm saying is, yes, we can do it for you, but we're still going to have the same obstacles that all of you are going to run into in your own respective counties and states. It's just a matter of learning what they're doing, and it's basically just tactics to slow us down. And so that does add to the timeline of getting this thing done. We say no more than 6 months when we first start this thing with you guys. I try to do it in less than that. I really do. But if you wanted to go that route, that is available to you. It's going to take some time, but we will get it done.
okay, great. I mean, shoot, I'm 40 years old, and 11, 40 years under this matrix, if you will. Several months more is not gonna matter.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
let's go ahead and reach out to our executive assistant. She's here in the chat as well. She'll take your email and she will converse with you about that, let you know how that works.
Great. I'll definitely do that. And then, if you don't mind, I have another question for you as well with regards to certain status and what have you.
Yeah.
So I am in the process of becoming a U.S. citizen, but after learning and hearing all this great stuff that's available to us, I have since rescinded that decision. And with that said, I am not yet a citizen, but I am a permanent green card holder, have social and all that good stuff. But with that said, is this process going to be any harder for me as opposed to being a citizen?
No, it
Or is
wouldn't.
it going to be a process?
It wouldn't be harder for you. It just gives you an extra step that you would have to do. I'm sure you are already planning on following the rules and regulations to give back the green card to get your certificate of naturalization at some point.
Right.
Do you know how long that is from now?
I'm sorry, can you ask that question again?
Do you know when that time will come that you will give the oath to become a U.S. citizen?
I've stopped the application completely. I've just completely dropped it.
Gotcha. Okay. There's two things you can do, but I'm going to give you the path of least resistance.
Okay.
Number one, the country that you were born in, if you can obtain, you can go to your consulate. Let's say it was Sweden. You go to the consulate of Sweden in the state where you're currently living and ask them to go and obtain an authenticated birth certificate from your country. And if it needs to be translated into English, they'll do that. They have those services. You want to have that, and you'll put that inside of the trust. Another thing that you can do is, let's say you wanted to move forward with becoming a U.S. citizen, and you do the application, you do the questions, you do the oath, and they give you the certificate of naturalization. That document is already authenticated. Sure, you can go get another certificate on top of that to, be extra if you wanted to, but it's not necessary. I would suggest go and get the US citizenship. Go and get the US citizenship, give the green card back. We're going to get the certificate of naturalization, because most of the people here in this class, that is what they've done, and they've had successes with it. Still to get some type of social security number, so that way they can move forward with commerce and doing things with getting houses and real estate. It's easier that way to accumulate these things and then merge all of that into your trust, versus someone who's just operating on the legal green card. There are some stipulations, because then you're going to be somebody that has 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You're always in limbo. And I've seen someone who holds a green card where they don't necessarily have the favors that someone with a certificate of naturalization has when it comes to court. Okay, so I would recommend go and get it, and then we'll do the declaration of nationality process, where that will do what's called some form of renunciation with a certificate, a clerk of court. And that's basically just going to be whoever is the clerk of court in the county where you're currently living. They are considered to be a naturalization officer, an immigration officer within a naturalization court. So it's a lot of information. If you do want us to do the process for you, you do get private consultations, an hour a month, so I can converse with you and coach you through this and to show you what we're doing with the paperwork. If not, it's inside the course and you'll still learn it. And you'll still be able to ask me here on Saturdays what to do.
Right. Okay. Well, I actually went through the citizenship application twice, and this last time will be my third time. And the reason why it's multiple times is because I previously had a business that I've been audited by the IRS, and IRS came back and said I owed them a huge, substantial amount of money. And during that time, I was relatively young and didn't know much about it, and just pretty much like everybody else, when you hear the IRS coming to audit you, you kind of like, just crapping your pants, right? So you kind of basically just like, yes, sir, no, sir, no, ma'am, what have you. And because of that situation, I'm still working with that, and I actually have an attorney to help assist with the, with those back taxes. And it's been going on for over 10 years now. But the first couple of times with the application for the citizenship, I've passed, and no issues with all that stuff. However, they denied my citizenship because of that reason, because I got back taxes with the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
And is there anything that we could do to perhaps maybe, with regards to like, just getting that debt discharge somehow, with a 1099-A or something along those lines, and then proceed with the citizenship like you had recommended?
Yes, but I wouldn't use any type of treasury gift or 1099-A to do that. I would set the IRS up to go to court and make them answer. That's the guaranteed way to get that obligation eliminated, because they don't want to go to court. And that process is called accord and satisfaction. The IRS likes to call it offer and compromise, form 656, but I like to use the constitutional accord and satisfaction. So yes, you can do that method first. It's a guaranteed. You do that method first before we can proceed with the next applications to do the U.S. citizenship.
That's great to hear. Now, is that a service that you guys or you offer?
As a private client, that is in there. That's in there. That is in the package for you to do that. Yes.
Okay, great. Then I definitely want to discuss this further with you as a private client. Then.
Okay, that's perfect.
Does this Avery, what state I'm in? I'm actually I'm here in California, Northern California.
Okay, hometown. That's where I'm from, Southern California.
Yes, sir. My
Right.
daughter actually goes to Long Beach State down there, so I'm always down there.
Awesome. Yeah, Long Beach is where I was from.
Sweet.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So we'll have something to talk about.
Yes, sir.
Outside of the chat here, and go ahead and grab Nancy's information there, and we'll move forward with that.
Okay, sounds good. I have Nancy's information as well as Isaiah. So, Avery, thank you so much for taking my question.
No problem, Joe. Thank you.
You bet.
All right. Talk to you soon. Go ahead and take one more. Last one for the day. We're 20 minutes. Oh, wow. No, actually, it always happens. It always happens. 1:45 was the cutoff. Frenchie, you are the last one. How are you?
Hi, Avery.
Hey there.
Hi, thank you. Okay, so I know you, I don't know if you remember, but so my accord in satisfaction was the ELOC. So I sent, I did all the process, but never heard from them. They cashed or they took all the money orders and everything. I am at the point of now I did the notice of default and everything. So I'm mentally getting ready for the court case, but then don't even mail me anything, and they remove from my credit report too.
They did what from your credit report?
They removed it.
Just one of them.
I mean, on Experian, yeah. It's completely removed from Experian. It doesn't even like exist. I see the old loaner, the old servicer, but not the new one. Like it's completely gone.
You see the old one, but not the new one. That's interesting.
Yes.
And usually Experian is the most important one.
Exactly.
So you may have a case where they're slowly going to dissolve this without having to go to court. That would be good. But just watch the other two credit reports and be prepared to go ahead and file a bill of complaint. You still want to go to court anyway. Because
that was my, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that was your question, huh?
Yes. Because since they're starting to not mailing me anything, they never answer to none of my registered mail, I mean certified mail or anything. So, and they remove stuff from the credit and all that stuff. So I'm like, what does that mean? Are they just, you know, squashing that out? Am I supposed to still go after and start prepare something for going to court? And then that's where I'm like, I literally don't know how to do that part.
So you gotta take the evidence that you have now with Experian, and you're gonna take it and put it as an exhibit with a bill of complaint. You're still gonna file a suit.
Okay.
You're gonna file a suit because it's still unknown.
Yes.
So
correct.
Put that in front of a clerk of court and the judge. And what's going to happen is they're either going to give you the offer that you asked for in your prayer for relief, or they're going to actually just go on to move forward with the case and kind of dish it out back and forth, but you will win because you have the evidence, which is sitting in the Experian.
Yes. Okay, thank you. When you're talking about the prayer of relief, do you know where we can find that out? I didn't see it on the course.
Yeah, let me show you something.
Okay.
Share my screen really quick. So remember some time ago, I shared with you guys this book called The Equity Draftsman. The book going way back into the 1800s. Now, we go to the top of it, table of contents. This is what shows you how to draft an equity pleading. And your bill of complaint is an equity pleading. This book breaks down all the parts that your bill of complaint is supposed to have. Right here, it says a bill in equity is usually divided into 9 parts. Number 1, the direction or address, the parties, the plaintiff's case, the charge of confederacy, the pretense and charge, that part which gives jurisdiction to the court, interrogatory, I didn't even say that right, oh my gosh, whatever.
Interrogating.
interrogating, there you go. The prayer, there it is here, the prayer. So if you go down to this section here, it talks about the prayer relief. When I
Yes.
gave you guys, go back, I talked about the bill of complaint.
Mhm.
That is such an important document. Those of you that were lucky enough to see it that day, you were able to look at it and you have it. But it is for purchase. So that's a template that you can have for purchase with the webinar of that Saturday's class. And when you receive the bill of complaint, you're going to notice at the very bottom of it, it says prayer for relief. And it
Mhm.
gives you the template on how to structure that. All you guys
Okay.
have to do is just plug in your bank's name, the bank's officers, how much, the dates, the money order number and information, and then you're pretty much it's good to go. You just file it with the court.
Okay. And so when I file with the court, what type of sorry, the only time that I went to court was for taking care of one of the renters. So I've
Mhm.
never been doing anything else. What type of claim, or how do you call that? Filing a lawsuit? Like, what do I tell them when I come in? I know I need to go physically over there.
Good question. Just go online to
Okay.
your local courthouse in the county and pull up their fee schedule.
Okay.
When you find breach of contract,
Breach of contract. Okay.
because that's what the bank did.
Mm-hmm.
The contract was the money order. They accepted it, they cashed it, applied it to the account, and they're not closing the account. That's a breach of contract.
Mhm.
So far, it looks like it's partially being done, but
Yeah.
it needs to be done in full.
Okay. All right. Breach of contract. And I don't have to go to, just do that to my county where I live.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Oh, one last little thing. When are you going to reopen your consults?
In 2 weeks. In 2
Okay.
weeks.
Okay.
Catching up on the existing ones within the 2 weeks, but
Mhm.
as soon as that 2 weeks is over, that's when they'll come back on.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, you guys. I appreciate you coming in and taking the time with me. It's been good to get back on here since the vacation. Now we got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. So all of you who are my current private clients, I will give you a call. You are due a call. Concerns to your mega account. Ryan, didn't forget about you. I know about our previous conversations. I did not forget about you. You will be included in that call that I have to do in my rounds throughout the next 2 weeks. So appreciate all you guys. Thank you guys. And if you got any questions, please, if you need, get a consultation with Isaiah. I'll be the little birdie in his ear. So I'm still there basically, but he's going to be facilitating all of the calls. And please contact Nancy for any other questions pertaining to Patreon, Telegram, or if you'd like to become a private client. That being said, I'll see you guys next weekend, next Saturday. Thank you guys.